Hey everybody, this is Brett Grayson of Tactical Pay Radio, reminding you that the podcast you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Check out all the great content at selfdefenseradio.net.
Welcome to Unload and Show Clear, the podcast about all things IDPA. And now, here's your host, the slayer of non-threats, Lloyd Bailey.
Welcome to another episode of Unload and Show Clear. This is a podcast about the men and women who compete in IDPA, International Defensive Pistol Association. Now, I've been attending IDPA matches since 2011, and over the years, I've met some really amazing people thanks to this sport. Ignore all the colorful jerseys and the sponsor logos, and underneath, you're going to find everyday men and women who volunteer their time and their effort and spend their hard-earned dollars on travel, match fees, and gear to make this sport great. And today you're going to meet another one of these awesome people. But first, I want to thank today's sponsor. You've heard me and some of the guests on the show talk about the benefits of dry fire. It's the easiest, most inexpensive way to get better as a shooter. But it's got some drawbacks. One of those being that because you don't actually see where your shots are hitting, you're just pointing at a target, you don't know if you're repeatedly practicing bad technique. So one thing you can do is use a laser bullet. But if you use a laser bullet by itself, you can be tempted to peek at your target to watch the little red dot show up. But now you can use the iTarget Pro system. It gives you instant feedback and lets you see exactly where you're hitting. Just place your phone in this iTarget sled, point the camera at the target. The app then monitors your target for hits from the laser bullet and maps them on the screen, showing you exactly where you shot. It's really cool. Just watch your sights like you normally would. Let the app do the rest. iTarget Pro is available for Android and Apple phones. Laser bullets are available in all of the popular pistol calibers, 9mm, 45, 40 Smith & Wesson, 38 Special. iTarget Pro offers you a safe and effective dry fire training tool that will make your training fun again. Check it out at itargetpro.com. Our special guest today is John Bordeau from Hortonville, Wisconsin. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, tell us a little about yourself and what you do for a living there in Hortonville.
Since 1997, I've sold semi-truck parts. I've been a parts person at a dealer for heavy trucks, and that's what I do for a living.
Give us an idea where Hortonville is. Is this kind of rural part of the state, or?
I wouldn't say rural. It's a smaller town just outside of Appleton, which is just south of Green Bay, because you can't tell anybody where Appleton is because they don't know. But they know where Green Bay is.
Did you grow up around guns? Where did the interest in guns come from? Did you have them in the home as a kid, or did you kind of develop the interest as you grew older?
Well, I'm actually not from Wisconsin. I was a Navy brat, and we moved around. I've been on all the coasts. I was born in Washington State, but when I moved to Wisconsin, I hung out with my uncle a lot, and we went to gun shows, and he was into restoring and collecting rimfire rifles. Oh. So I went to a lot of gun shows and kind of got the interest for guns there. And most of the time since then I was kind of collecting, stuff to deer hunt with and whatnot until I got the bug to shoot competitively.
Where did that bug come from? How did you get introduced to competitive shooting?
Oh, with a rifle, I've always been kind of accurate, but we started shooting like a 22 rimfire deal with 22 rimfire target rifles. And one of the guys there, we went over to the trunk of his car and he pulled out this Kimber 1911 and he's like, I shoot IDPA and ripping and that's where it started really. I got interested there. I bought a movie gun per se, a Beretta 92 FS, Yippee-ki-yay. It was the gun that the M9, the military had and whatever. And I had one of those, and that's what I started shooting IDPA with.
My goodness. So your friend said, "Hey, come out and shoot this IDPA match." What do you remember? What that was like? Do you remember the first time at a local match?
Oh, it was amazing. Honestly, everybody was, you go into with butterflies and nervous and all the you didn't know what to expect and everything. And everybody was really, really positive and helpful and wanting to show you things. And, I didn't show up with a vest or anything. I didn't know anything about that. And it was good. It was a fun experience.
You showed up with the Beretta?
Yeah. Yeah. I bought a used Galco, plastic holster and this Phobos double mag pouch that is horrible. And the mags don't come in and out of there. There's no adjustment on it. I had no idea what I was getting into. Now we have, all kinds of crazy things.
Right. Well, at least you didn't show up with the Uncle Mike's,
No, no,
Could have been worse.
they could have.
So that first match, you got the bug. How long after that were you signing up to pay the big money and go shoot in a sanction match?
I think I started in 2010, and it was 2013. I shot my first sanction match in Muskego, which is southern Wisconsin, down by Milwaukee, and that didn't go so well. But I got back on the horse, and I've shot a lot now. So.
What do you remember from that first sanctioned match? I mean, there are lots of stories that shooters have about how things went that first day, that first time out. What was that like?
Oh, there was a lot of crazy stages that I hadn't seen before. We had a van door that slammed with a target behind it. It slammed shut, to make the target disappear. We were shooting out of a car, which I'd never done before, and wow, it was loud. And then I remember doing the really smart thing was telling another shooter how to approach a door and go through a door, like I was anybody to tell anybody anything. And that's where I swept my hand and got DQ'd on my first sanction match. So, because I didn't take my advice and do it, what I told him.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah, it is.
So you got DQ'd on your very first sanctioned match, and yet you stuck with it and you went back. How did that motivate you to try to get better?
It did. It motivated me to think about it and visualize. I'm big on visualization of the stage, as preparing for it. I usually try to take a shooter or two off to kind of see the stage, and you get your walkthrough and you're out there taping and stuff and you're looking at angles and you're just trying to put it all together in your head. So I guess there's less thinking involved when the actual shooting starts. That's how I've kind of dealt with it now. That and I've left my muzzle mark on a lot of door frames up high since.
Exaggerating the keeping the gun above the door handle. Yes.
Oh yeah. You can't accuse me of sweeping my house self anymore.
You said there's a lot of thinking that goes on when you first start out. There's like when the buzzer goes off, there's no thinking going on. That's what I found.
Oh yeah. When the buzzer goes off, I tell everybody that when the buzzer goes off, your mind goes blank. So.
Yep, exactly. It's that Men in Black mind eraser.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So, what kind of practice? What kind of things did you do to try to get better? And how did you? Because I think you talked about the visualization and the mental part of it. That's to me that's I think the thing that's hardest for people to get. You can be really, really good. You can be really accurate. You can be really fast. But the visualization part of and the mental part of it is really tough. What did you do to improve in that area? And what was your practice routine like trying to improve your shooting skills?
That's funny you bring that up. I've listened to your podcast and you asked this question a lot, and I've thought about how I was going to answer it. And I really don't practice per se. I just shoot a lot, and we have a local club 10, 15 minutes from where I work that does a IDP-esque type of thing once a week, and I shoot a league there, and we do stuff outside the boundaries of IDPA rules sometimes, and but I just shoot a lot. That's how I've done practice. I can't go to a square range and just shoot at paper. You know what I mean? But I do have a cert training pistol, and I have targets set up in my gun room, and every now and then I'll take that out and shoot it down.
Do you put your visualization skills to work in preparation for the show?
Yeah, definitely. Try not to overthink things. And I've been an SO since I think 2012, 2013, and I just, I try to run the shooters and just kind of nitpick the stage that way before I get up. The worst is going first because then you're kind of hosed.
Right. You've got the problem that I've got, which is the last name that starts high in the alphabet. So inevitably, you're going to end up being the guy that shoots first, usually on the first stage every match.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. If that's how that, different matches do it different ways. You go to some and they do it by the number that you registered at, and then some they do it by your last name. But yeah, going first, you're always dreading that one for sure.
So, what's your match schedule like now? Now that you're shooting, like you said, you're shooting a lot more. What is that like? What's that schedule like for you now? Obviously lots of local shooting, but how much? How many sanction matches are you trying to get to every year?
I'd like to do 4 or 5. I'm trying to get to nationals this year if I can talk my wife into it.
Worlds.
Yeah, worlds definitely. Yeah, if I can get her on board with it. But I'm actually match director for our local club, and I run those 10 matches a year about,
Mhm.
and then we go to shoot all over the place. Last year, I decided to shoot some USPSA too with my revolver because I decided that I need to get better at that. And so I think last year, between um, local matches and USPSA and the league we did, I think I shot 54, I believe.
So give us you said you're the match director for your local club. Give us a shout out for your local club.
Yep, it's Ripon IDPA, and it's the Ripon Rifle and Pistol Club, and we have 16 bays. We just added up a bunch. Just added 11 bays the last couple of years, and I'm blessed to have inherited such a beautiful, beautiful range. We're always trying to do something different, trying to make the experience better because ultimately we're selling entertainment, more or less.
Right.
So we're always coming up with new props, new movers, new ways to do things, and still try to stay legal as far as the rules go, and safe too, obviously.
And right. And you mentioned shooting revolver a bit. What is your favorite division currently? What gun do you most often compete with, and what are you planning to do for 2019?
Well, after that year with the Beretta, my first year, I shot a Glock 26 for a year because we were getting concealed carry in Wisconsin, or anticipating it.
Right.
And then I went to a 34 for quite a while. Um, Last year, I guess 2017 in the winter, I got an opportunity for a Smith & Wesson 625, and I shot that all year, about 6,000 rounds, which was a lot of reloads, through a revolver. And then, you got to check them differently, so you're case gauging every single round. Then you got to put them in the moon clips, and it was a lot of work. But I had a fun time with it. But I primarily shoot SSP with a Glock 34. I believe that's what I'm doing this year.
What was the motivation to pick up the wheel gun? That's a lot of the people that I've talked to that like the revolver. They grew up shooting revolvers, and it was sort of the gun that they fell in love with. It's a hard transition, seems to me, going from. I'm thinking about doing it myself, which is I'm insane for thinking this, but um, going from the semi-auto to the revolver seems like a tougher jump than going the other direction.
Oh, I think so. I got a lot of criticism because I don't load it, Jerry Michlik style. I don't change hands or anything. I kick it open with my trigger finger and I load from the left with my weak hand. So I get a little criticism that way because I don't do it like the fast people. But it's fairly quick. I can get reloads done fairly quick. It was more humbling. I was match director for the state match this year, and I wanted, you know, bite off more than you can chew, I guess. But I wanted a little bit of a challenge with the shooting, and I didn't think I was going to be very competitive anyway. So I don't know. I had my first gun was revolver, so I wanted to play with it.
There you go. That makes sense. What's so tell us about your state match and tell us about the preparation that goes into to putting together a state level sanctioned match and kind of your philosophy, if you will, in designing stages and organizing everything.
Well, it's one of them jumping feet, jump in with both feet things. I was asked a little bit before the 2017 state match if I'd like to host and match director the 2018 Wisconsin IDPA championship, and I accepted. And so I was paying a little more attention, to the details going into that match, and we spent a solid year. We were making on the way home from the match. We were making notes on things we did right, things we'd like to change, things we did wrong, how to fix these problems, and I think it ultimately worked out really well. I have two great friends that helped me out, with rules and just running stuff past them, and one of my friends, Jason, is doing the sponsorship stuff, and Bill is, we started using SketchUp this year, so he's putting some of the stages on SketchUp, and he's really good with rules and stuff. So he was my CSO for the match.
Jason and Bill, give us their names, just to give them a shout out.
Yep, Bill Hatfield and Jason Slattery, great people, and I couldn't have done it without them. I couldn't have done it without everybody, because you can't run a match by yourself. You got to have all the SOs and the helpers and squad moms and all that stuff. Everybody from to taking the water out to the shooters because boy it was hot, to to bringing out the food for lunch and the awards, and everybody did a great job.
What time of year do you typically host the match? Because when you just said it was hot, that people think of Wisconsin, they don't think hot weather. When do you typically host the match, and give us a flavor of what Wisconsin weather is like?
Usually it's pretty good. This summer was particularly hot, and we host the match third weekend in June, and it was just hot. There wasn't a lot of wind, and it was a little bit of rain. I should say more than a little bit of rain, but we had to pump out a bay because it was flooded, and we wanted to lay down in the bay. Yeah, we had to dig a hole and get a sump pump and pump it out. So there was trials and tribulations, and we had our hurdles to overcome. But I think all in all, it turned out really well. It was the largest state match that Wisconsin has ever hosted. It was a Tier 4.
Nice.
Because for some reason I looked at the book and said, I have all these bays and stuff, and if we run so many shooters per squad, we might as well make it Tier 4. Go big or go home, I guess.
Right, exactly. So give us a flavor of one of the stages that you design. What kind of what's the philosophy when you sit down to design a stage? What are you looking to do? What do you like to do? What is a typical John Bordeau stage?
I tried to challenge the shooter and coming from a concealed carry defensive mindset. I try to make the stages somewhat as real as possible, or realistic as possible. So we're trying to do a lot of cars and hallways and doors. I have the philosophy of quote unquote train your weaknesses per se. So we do a lot of doors and seated starts and stuff that you really should know in a defensive situation.
Right.
So, but I not to be mean to anybody or anything, but try to mess with people, long and short targets, and make you think and make it challenging.
Right.
Try to make it challenging for the experienced shooter and the new one, the newbie to both. I don't know. We try to do a lot of variety. Our local matches are 7 stages, 100 rounds minimum. So we try to put on a good show.
As a shooter, what kind of stages do you like? Do you have an affinity or a dread for certain kinds of stages? Some people like standards. They're weird people that like standards. There's some people that can't stand them or they dread the standard stages. Some people like to kind of run and gun, and other people like lots of moving targets and things. If you had your druthers, what would you as a shooter, what would you like?
Honestly, I do the best on short, fast stages. Not short round count, but tight targets, quick around the fault lines and corners and things. But that's generally not the stages I do.
Right.
We always dread the 35-yard or 50-yard standard stage.
Right.
Because those are always interesting. But I like to, I like different things. If you can, use a car innovatively, because I'm always trying to design the next stage, the next match. Always watching range or match video of different people and seeing what other people are doing, just to kind of get some ideas and inspiration.
Is there a moment or a stage or a match that stands out in your mind from, you started in 2011 and so here we are 7 years later, you're shooting all different kinds of guns, you're directing state level tier 4 matches. Is there a moment or a stage or a particular match, something that was funny or weird or unexpected, a memory from those 6-7 years that you could share with us that would be interesting?
Honestly, it was the stage in 2013 where the van door closed on you, because that poor van door had so many holes in it from people going going after that target after the fact, or sending the round as the door was closing and stuff like that.
So,
We do a lot of fun stuff. We've had several stages on where you started out sitting on the toilet.
mhm.
One of the most memorable stages where you had to start with a rather large pair of pants, kind of on you. They weren't your pants. You were still wearing your pants, but they were on you, and you had to start, quote unquote, in the bathroom. And when the buzzer went off, you had to leave the room and shoot with pants up, and you had to hold. Basically, it was a one-handed stage, but that was probably the most interesting, the most wild thing we've had to do.
There have been, yeah, the bathroom stages tend to be pretty pretty interesting how different people approach those, and you're usually sitting on the john while you're shooting,
Yeah.
or you're leaving the porta john, or there was one in a match that I missed last year where you actually had to run to the bathroom because the stage, the course of fire description was that you had to go, but you had to shoot your way to the bathroom to get there.
Yeah, the stages where you're caught with your pants down are pretty fun.
And you had one like that literally.
Yes,
That's pretty great.
yes.
Okay, final question. What is it through all of this stuff that you've been doing? The shooting, well, trying to hold your pants up and shooting revolvers and directing major matches. What is it about this sport that keeps you coming back, that you love so much about it, that you're passionate about? What is it about IDPA that makes it special for you?
Honestly, this has been the answer for several of your guests, but it's definitely the people. The people are great. I've met friends that I'll have the rest of my life, um, and they're great people, and they'll give you the shirt off your back, and give you advice sometimes when you don't want it, but especially after you get DQ'd or something. Um, but they're gonna, just great people. You'd spend, amount of time. I spent a lot of time with shooting friends, and we do all kinds of things together that aren't shooting related. I've met the best people in the world, um, in my travels. People you go to matches, and it's like a family reunion, and you see different people that you see all over. That it's
Mhm.
amazing how you get to know people. We go down to Indiana a lot, and I've been over to Great Lakes Regional, Saginaw, and Iowa, and all over, and they're all great people. It's a great sport, and if you're looking for friends, and looking to get your gun handling skills, I'm a evangelist for IDPA, and I try to get all my friends involved. Guys at work, and people I meet on the street sometimes at the gun store, whatever.
Yep.
But it's definitely the people. I'm humbled by being a match director and whatnot. I'm humbled by how much work for me they put in to help put on a good match, and the state match was very humbling in that regard, for sure. We had I don't know, 55, 60 people come and donate their time and really put on something special. So it's the people, for sure.
All right. Well, John, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for what you're doing for the sport in Wisconsin, and thank you for taking the time. And I hope it sounds like some of the matches that you come to are far enough south that at some point we may cross paths, and I hope we get a chance.
I do too. I hope to meet you someday, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank our guest for coming on the show and our sponsors for making all of this possible. Take a moment, if you would, to check out the website, check out our show notes at unloadpodcast.com. We've got lots of interviews with more amazing guests like the one you heard today. Join our Facebook group at unloadpodcast.com/Facebook for all the latest updates and to connect with other fans of the show. And if you'd like to support the show, we sure would appreciate it. Consider becoming a patron at unloadpodcast.com/extra. I've got some full-length interviews and special content available there exclusively for patrons as well. And if you know somebody or you yourself would make an interesting guest for a future episode of Unload and Show Clear, please contact me at lloyd@unloadpodcast.com or click on the contact page on the website and send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Tune in again next time for another episode of Unload and Show Clear.